and ensure that we values that is as usual experience of our reforms. And of course, as a commission, we would like to take that elections can happen, we elect leaders, but we must ensure that Kenya remains one. We have one people, we have one nation, we have one citizen. Asante sana. My name is Dr. Bernard Mugesa. I'm the Commission Secretary and the Chief Executive Officer of Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, an independent constitutional commission established by an Act of Parliament as well as the Constitution of Kenya. My duties is to ensure that the Commission runs, the Secretariat runs, and all issues of accounting, accountability, and the day-to-day functioning of the Commission is done by my office. One of the mandates of the Commission is ensuring that human rights are promoted and protected. Therefore, our engagement in national elections ensures that the right to vote, for example, the right to be voted, eventually realized by the Kenyans. Now, monitoring as a commission ensures that the people are,
I think function. Nimetafuta hiyo on button. Nimetafuta hiyo on button.
Hiyo ile ingine iko on. Are you sure?
Sauti yangu it's not nini noise.
We do have the mandate for monitoring the elections. So, in so monitoring, first of all, we ensure that there is adequate legislation guiding the electoral processes. And at the same time, the decision to members of the parliament about the electoral processes.
As a data analyst, my responsibility will be to analyze, evaluate, and review information or data coming in through our election monitoring system during the election for reporting. We are going to be receiving complaints through our toll-free lines, whereby we can recommend further action or investigations to be carried out. As a data analyst, my responsibility will be to analyze, evaluate, and review information or data coming in through our election monitoring system during the election for reporting. We are going to be receiving complaints through our toll-free lines, whereby we can recommend further action or investigations to be carried out.
I want to believe you're enjoying your breakfast. Keep serving if you may, but we'll kickstart the program. It is exactly 8:38 thereabout. Our intention was to start at 8:30, but I think we are well within the time. So karibuni sana, and at this juncture I would like we start with a prayer, and it is our usual prayer, our national anthem. So I will request that you'll be upstanding so that we can have this prayer. Thank you very much. Dan, if you may. As we remain upstanding, we would like to have the anthem for the East African community. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Santeni. Before I continue, I wish just to mention that whereas we gather here as friends and partners of Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, I wish to pay special tribute and special mention to members of the fourth estate, members of the media. This is your function. You always come through for us when we call upon you to come and partner with us. So feel appreciated. I can see some are still trickling in. Karibuni sana. We will be able to share with you all the information and documentation that you will need so that you can be able to do your stories in good order. So thank you very much. At this juncture, I would like to invite our Commission Secretary and Chief Executive Officer of Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, Dr. Bernard Mogesa, to make his remarks.
Thank you very much, Kabiru. Good morning, everyone. Feel most welcome to this function of Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. Before I say a word, I would appeal to all of you to rise up. Let's rise up, all of us. Let's rise up. Let's rise up. And we take a moment to remember the officers, police officers who lost their life in the line of duty and the other citizens. May the Almighty rest their souls in peace. Thank you, guys. May I take this opportunity to thank you for coming. Our development partners, present the Norwegian Embassy for a year, USAID and NCCK, Royal Danish Embassy, also the High Commissioner for Human Rights, European Union, UN Women, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, government agencies present, the National Police Service, IPOA, represented by the chairperson here, NCIC, also the Director of Public Prosecutions, Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, the Judiciary, National Gender and Equality Commission, Commission on Administrative Justice, IEBC, International Association of Women Judges, Witness Protection Agency, our civil society partners, ELO and all the affiliating institutions, ELGIA, Wangukanja Foundation, FIDA Kenya, Defenders Coalition, Center for Multi-Party Democracy, National Democratic Institute, International Republic Institute, Media Council of Kenya, Editors Guild, Consortium of Disabled Persons Organizations, IMLU, among others. We don't take it for granted that you found the time to join us this morning. I wouldn't say much, but just to thank the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights staff and the monitors who helped us to piece together this report that we are launching this morning. It has been a tedious journey since November last year, culminating into the report that we are launching this morning. We thank you. We thank our commissioners for taking lead in this project, which has also led to the final product that we are launching here today. I thank the partners who supported and funded this project to say a big thank you for supporting the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. At this point, I wouldn't want to take much time but to call Director Anne Oktoi, who is our Director in charge of Research, Advocacy and Outreach, just to give us key highlights of the report, and then we shall go straight away into the keynote speakers. Thank you very much. Director Anne, please. Asanteni sana.
Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. So my task today is very brief. I'd like to give you an overview of our 2022 election monitoring project so that you can understand the context under which we will be presenting our findings today. So without further ado, I'll start with an introduction of the Commission for those who might not be familiar. Is that the Commission is an independent national human rights institution that is established under Article 59 of the Constitution of Kenya and operationalized by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights Act of 2011. We are also an A status commission. That means that we are in full compliance of what we call the United Nations Paris principles. Our mandate is divided into two broad areas. The first one is the promotional mandate, where we advise government and private actors on how to promote the respect and the realization of human rights in Kenya. Our second mandate is the protection angle, where we act as an oversight of state and non-state actors over compliance on human rights issues. We also have enhanced mandates. The first one is under the Prevention of Torture Act, where we are the main agencies that is charged with the implementation of this particular statute and on issues around torture in Kenya. The second is a designation under the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, where the Attorney General designated the Commission to be the main monitoring agency. So in terms of our monitoring role, and specifically why do we monitor election? Allow me to start and say that elections are an integral right as provided for in the Constitution of Kenya, and actually is the pathway to the realization of all the other rights. When you look at economic, social, and cultural rights, it starts with elections as an integral right. And the Commission has been focusing on the issue of election and political accountability way back from 2005, where we monitored the referendum, then to the 2007 general election, to the various by-elections that have been conducted over the years, to the 2013 election, which was the first election under the 2010 constitutional dispensation. We also monitored the 2017 general election, and now we are about to give you what our findings for the 2022 general elections were. So very swiftly, why does the Commission monitor the election? I'll just give you four main reasons why the Commission concerns itself with this integral cycle in our nation. Number one is that the Commission aims to promote and protect the rights as provided for in the national, regional, and international human rights instruments that Kenya has ratified. And the second one is that we monitor to document the human rights violations, the trends, and the patterns. And this closely ties to our third goal, which is to avert the escalation of violence, because we use the data that we collect as an early warning and response mechanism. And lastly is that we monitor to deter perpetrators. And one of our main goals is seeking accountability for all human rights violations. So I'll take you through what the background of the 2022 general election was. And I'll start by saying that last year in December, the Commission launched an election strategy. And this aimed to give us a roadmap on what the priorities of the Commission were. And our main focus for the 2022 general election project was to protect and promote the right to vote and to be voted for in the election. And we divided our strategies into various cycles. The first one was looking at the pre-party nominations, which was held in April. And then straight ahead, we moved to the campaigns. the polling process, and the post-election scenarios. And some of the rights that the Commission focuses itself when it's monitoring the election, I will not mention all of them, but just a few, including the right to life. This is integral because if you are not alive, then you cannot be able to exercise your right to vote and to be voted for. We monitor very closely the freedom from torture, cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment, again, stemming from our enhanced mandate under the Prevention of Torture Act. We monitor issues around the right to liberty and security of persons, and from the findings, you will get to see how issues around insecurity, were able to either hamper or disenfranchise voters in the 2022 election process. We also monitor the right to participation, specifically because we know during the political context, the right to association, the right to belong to a political party is important in the democracy discourse. We also monitor issues around equality and non-discrimination because the Commission is keen to enhance the participation of special interest groups in the election cycle. We monitor the freedom of expression and opinion, as well as the freedom of peaceful assembly, as provided for under our Constitution, and among other rights. And this is what gives us the basis of highlighting to what extent the state has complied to the human rights principles and standards during the election cycle. Now, what was our methodology? Again, as I've been mentioned, we divided our election strategy into 3 cycles with very targeted methodology in every cycle. And I'll just start with the first cycle, which was on to the run-up to the party nominations. And this is where the Commission, undertook to make sure that its internal structures and systems are in place. We recruited and trained and deployed monitors. We set up our functional election hub, as well as synchronizing our Kenya National Commission on Human Rights election monitoring system, which, as I mentioned, was our early warning response mechanism. We also undertook an audit of the key institutional level of preparedness, and specifically looking at what our recommendations in 2017 were with regards to human rights gaps, and to what extent the same have been taken up and mainstreamed in the 2022 election preparations. We also undertook a sustained advocacy and gave out advisories on electoral reforms, specifically to both houses of parliament on the various bills that were coming up. We also enhanced our partnership building and synergy so that we could work in tandem with other like-minded organizations that I'm happy are present today on how to promote and protect human rights during the election process. We were also keen on empowering the members of the public, and we embarked on setting up citizenship accountability forums and equipping them with the knowledge on human rights and how they can be able to meaningfully and participate in the process. We also undertook a hotspot mapping of the counties that the Commission embarked as a priority for its interventions. On the second cycle, that was on the party nominations, we deployed 150 monitors to 38 counties. We documented, investigated, and reported on our findings, and our report, titled Bound Ballot, gives a verdict on the human rights compliance with regards to the political party nominations. We issued our advisories to the various actors. We undertook public interest litigation on key human rights issues. And as well, we continued undertaking hotspot mapping. The last phase was on the polling day and the post-election scenarios, where once again, we deployed both long-term and short-term observers to a tune of 273 monitors in a total of 43 counties. We were across the country documenting human rights issues, and it has culminated to the report that we are about to launch today. Now, our key considerations, some of them with regards to this particular project, number one was that data is crucial. Data speaks volumes. Data, tells a story, and it helps not just ourselves, but other stakeholders in terms of planning and in terms of addressing the human rights gaps with regards to the election. Data gives us trends and the patterns, and the trends and the patterns, as I mentioned, are able to advise, where institutions need to put focus on. Evidence is crucial to us as a key consideration in this project because our main goal is to ensure accountability for human rights violations that have been documented during the process. Now, what was our scope and reach of this 2022 election monitoring project? Number one is that we had 273 both long-term and short-term observers that were deployed in a total of 43 counties all across the election cycle. So from April, when we held the nominations, to the campaign period, to the polling process, and up to right now, we have presence in 43 counties. The findings that are about to be shared with you are as a result of observation and monitoring in 156 constituencies, which is, out of the total of 290 constituencies. And as well, we've given our disaggregated data on the number of polling stations and polling centers that the Commission was able to undertake its interventions. Just to mention that these rights that are provided both in the Constitution, the regional and international human rights statutes were embedded in specific tools that were the guide and the basis for our monitoring project. Now, very briefly, what was the process that culminated to the publication of the report that we are about to launch? Is that the first one is that we had our monitors upload information into our election monitoring system, and the election hub, which is a team of professionals that have the main goal of analyzing information, collecting all this information, were able to carry this out and verify and validate every single statistic and report that is highlighted in our report. And this culminated to either further investigations by virtue of our mandate and subsequently to the publication of the report that we're about to launch today. So, as my last slide, what is the outcome of our monitoring project and what are the next steps? And I'll just talk about two elements. Number one, as I mentioned, accountability is key to us. So one of the next steps that the Commission is undertaking after this launch is referral of cases and recommendations to the relevant institution, and I'm happy that most of them are in this room. We shall also digitalize the witness statements and, if need be, undertake public interest litigation on emerging human rights issues. Because of time, I wish to stop there, but once again, just reiterate our Commission Secretary in terms of appreciating the partners and indeed each and every one of you who helped in the successful implementation of the 2022 election monitoring project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Director Ann, for that overview. Now, I take this opportunity to invite stakeholders to make remarks. And I have the honor to invite Lee Fung, Senior Human Rights Advisor, Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, to make her remarks. Lee, karibu sana.
Good morning. very, very good to be with all of you here today. The Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, OHCHR, was pleased... I think I'm too short. KNCHR has been very pleased to partner once again with the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights on advancing the promotion and protection of human rights in the electoral context. This is an important role that KNCHR has fulfilled in multiple electoral periods, and this is according to its mandate as per the Constitution. In 2022, this year, OHCHR supported the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights election monitoring strategy and the deployment of monitors, as the Red Anne has spoken to, and the analysis that was conducted through the KNCHR Elections Hub. And these are very important interventions to be able to detect trends for follow-up as part of early warning and then also to inform responses, and also to document incidents that can inform further action. One thing that I wanted to underscore is that partnerships are of critical importance in supporting peaceful and inclusive elections. And these are partnerships that unite national institutions and authorities, civil society, human rights defenders, grassroots communities, and international partners in this common goal. And this is why it's really good to be here today, this morning, to see such a broad range of partners who have come together to mark the launch of the KNCHR Elections Monitoring Report. And I wanted to note, as we're waiting to hear about the full findings of the report, is that now as we move beyond elections, it will be critical for us to maintain these partnerships and in fact to deepen them, to support the new government, both at national levels and county levels, to be able to advance the promotion and protection of human rights in their priorities and agendas. And in this endeavour, KNCHR plays a leading role as the mandated national human rights institution. And OHCHR will remain a faithful partner to support these efforts, working with government institutions, civil society, grassroots communities, and international partners. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much, Lee, for those remarks and calling on us to give deep reflections on how we work with the new government to promote and protect human rights. Thank you very much. Now, let me invite Reverend Canon Chris Kinyanjui, General Secretary, National Council of Churches of Kenya, to make his remarks.
Good morning, everyone. As the chair of the National Human Rights Commission, the commissioners, CEO, all the other commissioners from other independent commissions in Kenya, our government partners, government agencies, and the staff of Kenya National Human Rights Commission. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, on behalf of the National Council of Churches of Kenya, we are very proud of the work that we see being done by the Kenya National Human Rights Commission in terms of promotion of the democratic space in the country. As you all know, the National Council of Churches stands for Wananchi, and for more than 100 years, we have stood for democracy, sometimes at great cost. And the voice of the church, the voice of the Christians in this country has shaped the dynamism of our democracy. In one of the conferences of the NCCK, when NCCK was meeting in KU, there was another conference of the ruling party then called KANU. And KANU passed a resolution that elections are going to be held, and for every candidate, you're going to line up. The person is going to line up, and then the voters are going to vote with their feet. By lining up sequentially behind that candidate, I know Engineer Okudu will remember those days. Yes, and the one with the longest queue, ostensibly, was the one who was supposed to win. So as that news came to the NCSK conference, the leadership of NCSK then decided that that would be very difficult for pastors and bishops and religious leaders generally, because if you have two members of your congregation who are running for the same post, who are you going to line up behind? So it was a simple question, and a statement was issued opposing the KANU regime and the Mlolongo system. And that caused a lot of change, and some of our members actually left the NCCK because they supported the Mlolongo system, and the others who did not. What I'm saying is, the choices we make, the decisions that are made for us are very important for us. It is the right of every person to vote through the secret ballot. And you're very happy that in 1992, the secret ballot was reintroduced back into our books. I don't want to bore you with the stories of the Section 2A and multi-party democracy, and also with the new constitution. But I want to say that NCSK believes in human rights, and the human rights of everyone, and the human rights especially of the weak in society, the poor, the people living with disabilities, the children, the people in the margins, the minorities, and to make them visible, and to make their voice heard, and to protect the dignity of everyone. So NCSK is very proud also to be associated with the citizens of Kenya. We believe that every citizen has a duty to defend the Constitution and to defend the Bill of Rights. And not just to defend the rights that affect us, but also the rights of others. Because if you see your neighbor's land being taken away against the law, if you see the rights of a person with disability being taken away, if you see a building that does not have a ramp so that people with disability can access it, it is your right as well that are being violated. When one of us is violated, all of us are violated. And therefore, we believe that we need to all work together, especially recognizing the important role of the office of the citizen. President Obama said that the most important office in democracy is the office of the citizen. It is not the president's office or the office of the speaker, but the office of the citizen. And all of us are citizens of this country. And therefore, we have a role to play in making sure that we protect the rights of everyone. And the National Human Rights Commission, in that journey, is more or less like the choir master, but we are the members of the choir. So they will coordinate us as we protect our rights. The office of the citizen is also permanent because we are born into it and we also die in office. There is no retirement. All these commissioners will retire after some time, but the citizens will never retire. The right to, there are many rights, but one of the most cardinal rights that we believe in is the right to food and the right especially to life. And at this time we are very concerned because of the drought and the famine that is ravaging this country. And that is why on Thursday, as the National Council of Churches, and right now we reiterate that the national government needs to declare a national disaster because our people, especially in the north, are facing serious famine and serious drought. And it should be declared a national disaster so that we can mobilize all the resources of this country to save them. We don't know when the rains are going to come, and there is no way we can celebrate the right to vote when we cannot celebrate the right to life. And the right to life is guaranteed if we have the right to food. Food for ourselves and food for our animals. We know climate change has affected us. We know COVID is a major issue of concern. But that is why when a pastoralist animals cannot access water, and yet we have the right to water in the Constitution, all of us need to be concerned. And we are urging the government to put in place mechanisms to make sure that we have a proper coordinated mechanism, because we have the resources. We have the resources in the country, but they need to be coordinated by the state to save the lives of our citizens. NCHR was an accredited observer, and we observed this election that has just concluded, and we are proud that Kenyans voted peacefully, and the winner was declared, and the Supreme Court discussed all the matters relating to the petition, and we are happy that the institutions in this country have matured enough, the citizens are matured enough, and they can be able to make a determination on who is going to lead them for the next 5 years. As we embark on the next election cycle, we believe that all of us will work to make sure that that election is free and fair, and that the rights of everyone to express themselves freely are going to be guaranteed. So thank you very much, and may God bless you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Canon KNCHR, for those remarks. Now let me invite Mr. Kipkoech Keitani, who is the Deputy Commission Secretary at IEBC, representing the IEBC chairperson. Karibu.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Chairpersons of the commissions and independent bodies present, commissioners representing various commissions and independent organizations, the CEO of KNCHR, development partners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm here to represent the chairman of IBC who was unable to make it due to prior arrangements of other functions. So he has sent me with these remarks, which I will proceed to read. And I continue. Electoral governance is a crucial variable in securing the credibility of elections. An election management body, in our case the IBC, must ensure that elections are free, fair, credible and transparent. Elections, especially during the democratic transitions, are often hotly contested and characterized by fierce succession politics. This behoves the EMB to ensure that the management of such elections adhere to the set legal requirements and legitimate expectations of the citizen, short of which election results may be disputed or cause conflict. The Commission is obligated to ensure that the elections comply with the principles envisaged under Article 81 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. These are freedom of citizens to exercise their political rights under Article 38. Not more than 2/3 of the members of elected public bodies shall be of the same gender. Fair representation of persons with disabilities. Universal suffrage based on the aspiration for fair representation and equality of the vote. And free and fair elections, which are by secret ballot, free from violence, intimidation, improper influence or corruption, conducted by an independent body, transparent, and administered in an impartial, neutral, efficient, and accurate and accountable manner. In addition, the Commission, being among the constitutional commissions and independent offices, is duty-bound under Article 249(1) to protect the sovereignty of the people, secure the observance by the state organs of democratic values and principles, promote constitutionalism. The Constitution guarantees the autonomy of the Commission by making it subject only to the Constitution and the law, and not subject to direction or control by any person or authority. However, Article 254 obligates the Commission to submit annual reports at the end of each financial year, submit a report on the particular issues as may be required by the President, the National Assembly or Senate, any reports required from commissions or order of independent office in accordance with the Constitution, and shall be public and published. Role of the Commission in the management of transition elections. The Commission, as an independent EMB, prepared and conducted the 2022 general election in a manner that upholds the integrity of the process during three major stages: pre-election, election period, and election period. To achieve this, the Commission undertook the following activities: the planning of the elections, freedom of citizens to exercise their political rights. The Commission has a responsibility to ensure that citizens are afforded an opportunity to exercise their political rights by, among others, registering as voters and voting by secret ballot in an election or referendum. To realize this principle, the Commission launched continuous voter registration on 15 August 2018 and later rolled out enhanced voter registration to the entire country. The voter registration exercise targeted eligible citizens in the country and also those residing outside the country, in which we extended to the following countries: United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, UAE, Qatar, Germany, South Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and South Africa. After subjecting the register to verification and implementation of the recommendations of the audit report, the Commission on 21st June 2022 gazetted a register of voters of 22,120,458 voters with 46,232 polling stations. Then there is the issue of the two-thirds gender rule. Under Article 88 1B of the Constitution provides that not more than two-thirds of the members of elected public bodies shall be of the same gender. This provision has been attained in the county assemblies by way of gender top-up through the party list model. However, the realization of the two-thirds gender rule has remained elusive in Parliament, with several unsuccessful attempts at providing legislation to operationalize the principle. So this is still remaining a challenge for all of us to think about it and see how to realize. Fair representations of persons with disabilities. Article 81 of the Constitution provides that our electoral system shall comply with, among others, the fair representation of persons with disabilities. The Constitution, in furtherance of its pursuit to secure and guarantee the rights of the person with a disability, obligates Parliament to enact legislation to promote representation of marginalized groups, that including persons with disability. Additionally, Article 97(1)(c), 98(1)(d), and 177(1)(c) provide for election of people with disability to National Assembly, Senate, and county assemblies on the basis of proportional representation of the party lists. This we ensure was adhered to in the nomination process. Now, there are some threats to the electoral process. While the Commission made concerted efforts to ensure the conduct of free, fair, and credible and transparent elections, unprecedented threats the Commission and its staff were witnessed during the just concluded general election. These include: 1. Abduction and murder of the returning officer. The murder we witnessed from 2017 when we lost our ICT manager, Mr. Chris Musando. Up to date, we don't know the state of the investigation. We hope this shall not be a trend that we lose election officers in every election cycle. As a national human rights body, I hope in your report you have included these issues carefully considered. You remember even the happenings in the National Tallying Center, where the chairman and commissioners were chased away while conducting their constitutional mandate. They were chased away and prevented from doing their function. And some of them were injured, and they reported they have copy records, but nothing has been done to date. We hope the Commission also has constitutional rights, human rights. Number two, ethnic profiling of staff that pose risk of attack on them, especially in ethnically polarized areas. Yeah, we receive a lot of lists towards the election when we deploy the returning officer. Some political parties wrote to us indicating that we don't want this stuff, and this stuff to be posted in certain areas. Supposing all political parties were to say they all checked all election officials in the area, we will not be able to have an election. Number C is the arbitrary arrest and abduction of staff by security agencies, especially at the National Tallying Center. Especially the ones who were taken by ATPU, because we don't know what is the relations of between the elections and anti-terror unit in the National Tallying Center. These are things you need to capture in your report. Number D, assault of some members of the Commission and staff by political goons aligned to certain political divides. So these are matters which need serious discussion in this country. Because imagine if goods were to be sponsored to go to the Supreme Court while they were reading their judgment and then disrupted from doing that. So it is the same way in which the chairman was disrupted and chased away from doing his constitutional functions. It is myopic to consider these highlighted incidents as threats to the Commission only. By any description, these are attacks on our electoral and democratic process. And there is an urgent need for action that will prevent such occurrences in future. Free, fair, and credible elections cannot be attained in an environment where the referee is under siege to concede independence and impartiality. The Commission is currently undertaking the post-election evaluation phase, which involves reviewing the conduct of the 2022 general elections. The observation, lessons learned, and the recommendation thereof will inform strategies for the 2027 general election. It is no doubt that observer reports, including the one being launched today by KNCHR, will form part and materials to be considered during the election evaluation. The Commission will continue to involve all relevant processes in ensuring that it delivers free, fair, and credible elections that meet the democratic aspiration of the people of Kenya. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, IBC, for the remarks. Now I take this opportunity to invite Bruno Chioso, who is the Director of Corporate Communications and also the spokesperson, National Police Service, to come and make his remarks.
Thank you, CEO. Distinguished guests, all protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I read my remarks. Please. I'm deeply honored with this invitation to join you during today's reflections on the recently completed 2022 general elections. On this score, allow me to share the following points capturing the National Police Service performance in a nutshell. General election is a very crucial and defining moment on the calendar of any government. This is a singular opportunity that citizens get an opportunity to determine their collective future and national aspirations. And this is through electing leaders of their choice who will shape their lives through policy choices. As the National Police Service, we are always pleased to be part of this auspicious process, not just from the fringes, but being at the center of it all. And 2022 wasn't an exception. As a security and law and order institution, we commenced our journey for the 2022 election immediately after the 2017 elections. This time around, we took the process more seriously, arising from the tumultuous past elections in a row. And we purpose to do it different this time around and get it right. So the question is, how different do we do it this time around? In response, we put in place a mechanism mandated to chaperone the election security provision. At the helm of it was a senior police officer who's here with me, Mr. Kisari, stand up please. He was our chief liaison officer, elections. We are mandated to play a liaison role between the service and the IEBC, including other critical electoral stakeholders and partners. It is this liaison role that gave us a seat at the table of critical decision-making, enabling us to gain insights on key issues that not only informed, but also enriched our internal planning. Secondly, we audited our performance from the past election, gaining insights and learning lessons from where we did well and where we might have failed. We picked the best lessons and incorporated them into our operational doctrine. Thirdly, and more importantly, we put in place a robust planning process, bringing together key policing elements from within the service and coupled with from our security sector partners. We broke our silos and simply approached electoral security planning as one national agenda. Through this, we leverage on our respective comparative advantages, shared resources, and continuously compared notes as we progressed. This indeed was a game changer in the turnaround. Fourthly, we developed related policy guidance documents in good time to support the process. Through our liaison office, we worked jointly with IBC and developed robust training guidance for all levels of our practitioners, purposely to empower them to better perform. At the core of this training guidance was a deliberate focus on democratic, human rights-based, and responsive policing paradigm. Officers from across the country were taken through all aspects of theoretic and practical electoral security provision, working through extensive simulations. Of great interest was use of force requirements. From our learnings from past elections, experiences, this was one stubborn risk area responsible for bad policing outcomes that we had to get right. Once armed with this basic requisite, we as a service, through our senior leadership, further continuously engaged the IBC leadership through high-level policy interactions, constantly assuring them of our full cooperation and support to enable them to deliver on their mandate. And to ensure that we succeeded, for the first time ever, we mobilized the largest deployment of about 150,000 strong force of officers. This included auxiliary support from partner agencies like Kenya Prisons, KWS, NYS, the Kenya Forest, and the NPR from some of the acquired areas, who graciously donated their time and resources to make the elections a success. We applaud them on their generosity. As a service, with our outreach, we went further to support the process with logistics as necessary. Ladies and gentlemen, all these are testament of NPS valued partnership in the electoral process. Therefore, do we deliver on our mandate? Second question. Yes, we did attain our main objective, and this was simply to support IEBC deliver a free and fair election through provision of a secure environment. We ensured that peace prevailed. We populated all areas with adequate security, pre, at, and post-election. We took measures to ensure volatile and high-risk areas were proactively secured to reassure communities. We worked either alone or with peace partners such as NIC and others through Uwaino platform to create valuable peace. And this initiative paid dividends as reflected in the peaceful election outcome. And with this positive outcome, we are glad that observers, our partners, some of them here, and the general public took note and appreciated our contribution. As recent as during the inauguration of the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya, attended by Her Excellency, Mama Samia Suluhu, President of Tanzania, she noted as follows during her speech, and I quote, "Kama iko zawadi wa Kenya walipea Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki ni amani." And ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to have been part of this gift of a peaceful election. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bruno, for those remarks. Now I have the pleasure to welcome Mude Musau, who is the National Coordinator of the Election Observation Group, in which KNCHR is also a member. Mude.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mogesa, for the invitation. I wasn't actually expecting it, but we've been members and we've been working together with the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights for a very long time for these elections. To the chairperson of the commission, all invited guests, including my boss here, Canon Kinanjuisori from the SCCK, all protocol observed. Good morning, everybody. I have very few things to say for purposes of this very auspicious occasion. It's very interesting that the Commission is among the first organizations to release a report for the elections, and they have put all of us on the spot. I think that's a very good thing. They are very expedient. They've done this very fast. Many of us are waiting for around 2 months. And we start seeing some of the reports about the elections, but I think this is a very commendable thing for the Commission. I congratulate you on the occasion on this occasion where you will be launching the report on the elections. At least it will be the first thing that Kenyans can be able to look into in terms of what transpired over what I would consider from where I was one of the most celebrated elections. I don't know whether that is nationally, but internationally, I think it was one of the most celebrated elections, despite, of course, the challenges that we went through. I work for the Elections Observation Group as a national coordinator. ELOG deployed 5,000 observers. We expect, now that we've been, of course, we've been put on the spot, we are working very fast to also be able to release our report. Our hope is that within the next month we'll be able to issue a very comprehensive report, which includes our observation of the long term, the 8 months before the elections, the electoral processes themselves, and others, to give an extra or more information in terms of the process and how it was conducted. We worked with Kenya, the Commission, as a member of the Technical Working Group on the elections. For quite a long, about 1 year before the elections, we were able to work together in different areas, different thematic areas. The Commission, of course, has a speciality in the area of jurisdiction, and they've done a very good job. One of the things that I want to celebrate from where I stand is that we have seen the involvement of state agencies, much more robust involvement of state agencies in our elections over time, starting with the Judicial Commission on Elections, which did a very good job. The National Police Service, as we've heard from Shiosho, in terms of the engagement in the process, the NCIC, very robust in this particular election, and then the Commission itself. The report which the Commission gave in 2017 was one of the anchors of the reform process that we had in between this electoral process. And I believe that the report that they'll be launching today will be able to inform or better inform our electoral reform processes moving forward. I just spared a thought for IEBC because I know IEBC, if there's one organization that is going through some interesting times, it's going to be IEBC. And I think from what transpired over this electoral process, moving forward, I was of the opinion that the one area that, or the one institution that will be focusing on in the post-election process will be the IEBC. Granted, I think they still delivered on their mandate. And when I'm talking about IEBC, we're talking about the thousands of employees of IEBC across the country who, despite the tensions and the pressure, we were working with them very closely through the election process. Some of them were even calling us to ask why are we not speaking out in their defense, because they were facing local pressures. Forget about the national issue, there are local pressures all over. So we believe they did a very good job at the end of the day. As what happens to the Commission moving forward, my hope is that we can all be able to work together in terms of ensuring that we have a very stable Commission moving forward. You must remember that we have 3 commissioners who will be retiring in January, I think, and then we have 4 commissioners who will be left. So we'll have to sit as a country, we have to find a way of how to make our institution, which is in charge of elections in the country, stronger, considering now that everybody is also, a number of petition processes which are going on. There'll be by-elections, there'll be very many. We are looking at the boundary delimitation process, which is set to start. So we need to put that institution in order. We think they did a very good from where we stand, and we need to celebrate how those very patriotic Kenyans worked through the entire process and still delivered on an election despite the circumstances. Last, ELOG and a number of other actors will be working to hold a national symposium for all election observers. I think we'll be working very closely with the Commission on this matter. The idea is to bring home all the recommendations, all the reports that we have all gathered in the electoral process, so that we can be able to have a compendium that we can all be able to access in terms of advocacy for electoral reforms that are due to come. My last point is that we have had a lot of problems when it comes to elections in this country, and this election is no different. But one of the major problems that we've had is the issue of ensuring that the reforms that are required are done within a period of sobriety. We end up running very late in the day. Parliament runs very late into the day. We had changes to electoral laws this year. We had new laws which are coming into place. We had 2 funds to IBC coming also again very late. I think we need to work as stakeholders in this area to ensure that within, once KNCHR, the Commission gives out the recommendations today, ELOG and others will be also issuing the recommendations in due course. Can we be able to work very quickly within a sober period? Is it 53% of members of Parliament who are new now? If we have such people, we can convince, we can talk to them earlier on before they get co-opted into the famous corridors of power, where they end up having particular interests. I think if you can be able to work between now and December next year and try to push as much of the reform agenda in the tables of Parliament and other decision-making processes, we've done ourselves a very good job. I thank you for this invitation, and I want to thank again the Commission for what I consider a very good job done. I've worked with them. I'm very sure the report will be able to inform the process. Congratulations on this occasion of the launch of your election report.
Thank you very much, Mule, for those remarks. Kenya National Commission on Human Rights worked very closely with the National Coalition and the Integration Commission, and I have the honor to invite Honorable Engineer Philip Okundi, who is a commissioner at NCIC, to make his remarks.
Good morning. Chairperson, the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, chairman of the independent commissions, independent bodies and commissions in this country, all the development partners who are working with us in this process of making Kenya a truly recognized human rights. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy on behalf of the National Coalition Integration Commission for this invitation to come and be part of those who take part of this very important assignment, which is being shown today under the National Human Rights Commission. I commend it because you have been able to produce a report very fast after the general elections. I would say that we in the NCIC, and thank you the coordinator for mentioning us and others, we started very, very hard to look into this idea of creating peace and looking into inclusivity and looking into recognition of diversity and making sure that our elections will be peaceful. Because at the end of the day, there is Kenya, but Kenya will remain whatever happens, and that's why we need peace. I must just refer to what the canon from the canon mentioned my name about the old Mlolongo days, the Mlolongo days under the party of KANU. People suffered because I think those days there was no question of human rights. If you say human rights, people just laugh at you. When you're going to seek national positions in leadership, you were elected by lines, molongos. You have queues and queues. But as you know, many times the best people, sometimes, in many times, they are always outmaneuvered. So what to say, you count the numbers, and they say that because people actually came and you did not do it in secret, you saw for yourself that your numbers were less. But the guys who count, they start with one, and they move, they go in front, a few people passed, and their numbers are not in that list. And then they say, oh, all right, we found this number. And you at the biggest number, you find yourself not getting in. You complain, and you fight, and what, they say, no, these are the numbers we found. And those were terrible days. But it is reminding me of in the 1940s, early, Joseph Stalin, the leader of the Soviet Union, he said that in any election, it is the counters who choose the leaders. It is not how you vote, it is how you're counted. And this brings me to the issue that as we talk of human rights in this country, we want freedom for everyone to exercise his or her human rights, to serve his people, serve his country, serve the purposes for the country. And the institutions like the Kenya National Human Rights, we must thank ourselves, all Kenyans, that the one in creating this condition, where human rights are talked about, whether good or bad. And we must also say the institutions involved in making sure this thing happens, like the IBC. I'm glad that the national coordinator mentioned the IBC. The IBC will always, there was no time, nobody failed to talk about IBC when Electoral happened. They've done a wonderful job, but as you see with those Joseph Stalin's stories, it looks like it ends up at how people are counted. And you've done a good job, but it's a job which is terribly difficult. Very, very difficult. Doesn't matter how you do it. There are some people who just don't believe to accept any results. You know, they were saying sometimes that the problem is not being able to accept results. But you know, if you want to lead, if you want to win, it is very hard to accept results. It's very painful. And therefore, the process of getting people to accept results is a major piece and engagement very early. And I'm glad it's mentioned that we always do things last minute. Reform IBC, reform this one, reform these laws, reform this house of rules, whatnot. And then people are in a hurry running the food which is properly, not properly. So in the end, you find that some people, they are going to have stomachaches. Some people are very satisfied because they're not worried what kind of food they eat. We do it early. And I'm glad that you put this report now. And all the other institutions do yours now. So that we start early, so the next stage is good. But Kenyans are one. Kenyans are one. Because after this election, people are thinking that anything can happen. And it is known that in Kenya, every 5 years we have general elections. And chances are violence is part of the thinking. That's what happened in the past. But this time round, Kenyans said, okay, whatever it is, we will go by what the result is, but we must have peace. And I want to commend one of the leading people in this country, Professor Nyang. He said that elections have been announced, the results have been announced, but my people of this country and people elsewhere, please maintain peace. Make sure it's peaceful, whatever it is peaceful. If it's not right, seek justice through the legal system. And you see, things just quieted down. But you know, I was speaking from a place which is one of the hotspots in this country. It was already boiling and it went almost starting. And then it said, they went down. Now, that is God who was forcing leaders to say something. And this saying something has led to peace all the way, whatever anybody thinks. And I would say that for the first time, Kenyans have embraced peace. And peace is the most expensive item in any country, even in a family. You spend to create peace irrespective of the costs. Because peace, when there is peace, everything will work, and all of us will be happy at the end of the day. I thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the report, because I also say that we need an MOU with you so that the two institutions and others can join us in working hard to create chances that make Kenyans do things the right way, and at the end of the day, embrace a peaceful recognition of the human rights of their people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. You've given us an action point, and I can assure you we have already noted it for action. Let me now invite the National Gender and Equality Commission, one of the commissions under Article 59, whom we work very closely with, represented here by Commissioner Caroline Dentupuru, to make her remarks. Commissioner.
commissioners, CEOs of the constitutional commissions, and all other invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's my pleasure to be here today representing the chairperson of National Gender and Equality Commission, who was not able to be here today. So we are happy as a commission to be invited to this forum. We really appreciate our sister commission, the National Commission on Human Rights, because we are enjoying at the hip. We cannot do without you, you cannot do without us, you cannot do without CAJ, and the reason we are here, to give you every support you need, because that is what the Constitution demands of us. We thank you for doing what you do best. You monitor the elections. We met you in the field. We can tell Kenyans that true, this report, data was collected in the field, because we were there with you and we appreciate. And so we are looking forward as National Gender and Equality Commission, because our primary mandate is to promote gender equality and non-discrimination in Kenya. We know as you went to the field, you collected data, and there must be issues touching on gender equality and non-discrimination, and we are ready and waiting to pick on those issues for action, because that is the reason why reports are given, recommendations are given, so that agencies of government and even private in this case will be able to take up the duties. So thank you so much for inviting us. We are ready to collaborate with you, and we are also working on our report. Once it's ready, we'll invite you. Congratulations for doing yours early enough. Something else is that it's really my prayer that going forward, you will be able to get adequate resources. Because when she was presenting the overview of the report, I realized how rich it is. And I was telling myself, if only they had enough resources to cover every polling station in this country, you can imagine the great report that we could have and actions for all government agencies. We appreciate you, and may God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for those remarks. Commission on Administrative Justice, Office of the Ombudsman, also under Article 59. I have the pleasure to invite the Vice Chairperson of CAJ, Washington, Sati, to come and make his remarks. Sati, karibu sana.
Thank you so much, CEO. Chairpersons present from independent commissions, fellow commissioners present from, of course, different independent commissions, all the CEOs present from different commissions, development partners present this morning, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. I'm here this morning to represent our chairperson, Madam Florence, Honorable Florence Kajuju, who will have really loved to join this event today. Unfortunately, as a commission, we're also launching our investigation report on the issue of immigration, and therefore she is there. She could not be able to come. However, the commission is really honored to be part of this occasion. And on behalf of the Commission on Administrative Justice, we want to express our congratulations to our sister commission for setting up a wonderful example for all of us to imitate. Let's appreciate them in sign language then. It's beautiful and a wonderful job well done. As the CEO already mentioned, yes, of course, we are a sister commission together with the National Gender and Equality Commission, the Commission on Administrative Justice, and also known as the Office of the Ombudsman, whose mandate focuses on matters around administrative justice and access to information. That is the mandate that we were given to perform under Article 59(4) of the Constitution and also the CNCHR Act. And of course, we were also part of the journey to monitor the election process, particularly narrowing down to what extent is or are the election processes adhering or looking at around issues of maladministration, and of course looking at matters around access to information. So those are the two mandates that we were observing. We deployed monitors also across the country, and when Dr. Anne Okutoi was making her remarks on the overview, we are somehow sharing similar findings. All of us have noted that during election, there are things that we must ask ourselves. My first question is, we had more than 21 million registered voters. However, perhaps less than 14 million voted. The question we need to ask ourselves is, where is the problem? We need to ask ourselves whether, is it the issue of awareness? Is it the issue of civic education or just voter apathy? Why? Because we want to promote the rights of every citizenry of this country not to vote as within or what the Constitution says. If almost 8 million people did not vote, that is a big question that needs to generate a conversation. It's not something to be taken lightly. Why? Because this is a human rights issue. A country like ours must pick that as an issue. I believe it's one of the issues that were captured in the report. I also noted similar findings together, or when they were being shared, on the issues of public officers in the electioneering process, particularly in the campaigns. It's another serious issue that we need to discuss, all of us. How do we make sure that in the future we'll minimize the participation of public officers in this process? Because it brings serious implication, serious, emotional discussion, and of course, disagreement when it comes to issuing of results at the end. I must also say, particularly persons with disabilities, I looked at the findings that were shared. And we, of course, noted the same, that in different areas, I agree that issues of infrastructures where the elections were happening, like in different schools, we understand that the physical infrastructures are or were not accessible, and this is something that I will ask the Commission plus other development partners to look at in the future. How do we set a framework that will ensure that persons with disability also enjoy their rights to vote? Not only persons with disability, but elderly, mothers who are pregnant, among others, to make sure that they enjoy their rights to vote. I don't want to talk much, but I believe that we are part of, or I am part of the officers who have worked in all Article 59 commissions, starting with the National Gender and Equality Commission, moving to Human Rights, and now CNCHR. It has been a big honor. One of the strengths of all those three commissions is coming up with wonderful reports. This is a strength that we enjoy as sister commission. But more efforts need to be done, or to see how we can ensure that all these reports then generate positive discussion so that we're able to push for the implementation of the key findings from those reports. Looking at all those reports, they always have wonderful findings, but then needs to be enforced by different institutions. How can we make sure that all of them, all the findings find their place into the implementation part? We need to have another platform where different players, particularly public offices, will share their findings. Then from there, we'll come up with one major ways, or one major way on how we can push to the reforms of elections in Kenya. But as a commission, this is CAJ, we commit to working with our sister commission because this is a requirement by the constitution and also looking at our constituting acts. And those are things that we commit to continue working together. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting us and thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you, Commissioner Sati, Vice Chairperson, Office of the Ombudsman, CAJ. Now, I take this opportunity to invite Anne McCoy, the Chairperson, Independent Police Oversight Authority, to make her remarks. Karibu.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you very much. I'll try to keep my comments to the written comments as much as possible in the interest of time. I was sitting next to the chair and I can see she's looking at her watch. If I'm not very audible, I hope I am. I'm recovering from a cold and then I've had the benefit of sitting under the cooler. So I've been struggling in the AC, but I believe it's all well. Kenya National Commission on Human Rights Chairperson, Roslyn Odede, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I receive warm greetings from the Independent Policing Oversight Authority fraternity. At IPOA, we consider KNCHR a critical partner with whom we are joined at the hip in the striking similarities dictated by parts of our mandates, and also because the chairperson, Ms. Odede, also sits in the apex organ of the IPOA. That is the board. She's a member of the board in IPOA as an ex officio. Therefore, she's a member of my board. So in that regard, I'm her chair. It's such a privilege, actually, if you get an opportunity to have a chairperson of another commission sitting in your board. I can tell you that. So I'm very privileged to have her in the board of IPOA. And I believe it's by design that the chairperson of KNCHR sits in IPOA board. And that can be demonstrated by the invaluable contribution that Ms. Odede, as well as her predecessors. In the past, we had the privilege of having Commissioner, I can see she's busy, currently the Executive Director of Witness Protection, Orodio, sitting with us. She's the one who ordinarily was sent. Once in a while, the chairperson could come, but ordinarily, we had Commissioner, now the Executive Director of Witness Protection, sitting on our board, and that partnership has brought immense value to IPOA. And also considering now these institutions work together and they understand each other, it adds a lot of benefit to our work. So this association has not been limited to the board functions alone, but we have endeavored to cascade the relationship to the officials who form our secretariats. The Secretariat of IPOA and Secretariats of Kenya National Commission on Human Rights are quite familiar with one another because ideally they've got to work together on many areas. So successes of these symbioses have been demonstrated in the past and continue to be of relevance even today. I can confidently, therefore, inform all of us gathered here today that IPOA and KNCHR officials, in particular those who are deployed across our country to monitor August general elections, worked hand in hand. We had to cooperate and collaborate because we don't have enough numbers and rely on each other for effective delivery of service. So thanks to the confidence and the goodwill offered by the leadership of both institutions. We appreciate you. So today, Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is releasing its official report on monitoring exercise, which I'm aware obtains independent findings and further makes recommendations which are largely aimed at informing better decisions and preparations in future by the various state and non-state actors involved in administration of elections. So on our part, as IPOA, we congratulate you. I mean, you've done well, you've set the bar. So we endeavor to pull up our socks next time. But we are really proud of that achievement. Doing a comprehensive report within that short time is a commendable job. So we need to appreciate Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. So as IPOA will soon release an equally independent report. However, we have since published preliminary report on the same. Therefore, I would presume many of you may be aware of the contents since it was released to the public and was widely publicized. The IPOA report is a culmination of a strategy to monitor the conduct of police officers during, before, and after the elections, which we had conceptualized just before the electioneering period. As the monitoring covered the campaign period, party primaries, the polling day, as well as the aftermath. In our preliminary report, we established that the police, and I'm very proud they are represented by senior officers. Today we have the spokesperson of the police, Shioso, and Mr. Kitavi, who was very critical in all the trainings. In fact, I at one point was asking how he's managing, because he was everywhere. And we kindly appreciate this gentleman. He did a commendable job in ensuring a multi-sector, multi-agency approach succeeded. So we acknowledge you and we appreciate you. So we noted in our, we thank the members of the service. They did well. They did well. I think that goes without saying. And we established that they were better organized, better prepared towards management of polling security. And this was commendable and a milestone towards police reforms. We can all see the benefits and the achievements of police reforms. So we also thank the people of Kenya for maintaining peace to a large extent when compared to the past election cycles. However, we picked out a number of cases of misconduct which have since been advanced to investigation and range from beatings, shooting, and one incident of sexual assault. IPOA has assured the public that these cases will be investigated, and where criminal culpability is found, a recommendation to prosecute will be made. On the same breath, officers found to have acted within the law will be absolved. It's only fair that if they acted within the law, we also be ready to accept that they will be absolved from blame, isn't it? So allow me to take this opportunity to congratulate my colleague chairperson, Ms. Dede, and the Commission, Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, on the launch of your report. May God bless Kenya National Commission on Human Rights and God bless Kenya.
Thank you very much, Chair, IPOA. Now let me take this opportunity and invite Roslyn Odedi, the chairperson, Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, to make her remarks.
Chairperson Anne Makori, the chairperson of the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. It is a pleasure and honor to be with you this morning, and it's all due to the grace of God, and we thank Him. Allow me to start by registering our appreciation as the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights to each and every one of you present here this morning. We really do thank you for honoring our invite. I acknowledge the presence of key partners here present with whom we have collaborated and worked closely in monitoring and observing the elections. We did not work alone, we did not work in a silo, we worked in partnership, and partnerships really worked for us. These include the Norwegian Embassy, who generously supported the process, the IUBC, who is represented here by Mr. Keitani. We have the chair of IPOR, who has just spoken, Chairperson Anne Makori. We have the CAJ, represented by their Vice Chairperson, Washington Sati. Thank you for coming. I know you're launching another document, but you've honored us by being present. We really do appreciate. We have the National Gender and Equality Commission, represented by Commissioner Caroline. Thank you, Commissioner. NCIC, also present, represented by Commissioner Philip Okundi. The NPS, as well, represented through the Director and Spokesperson, Bruno. Thank you, Bruno. We have the NCCK, who's also been a very great partner. We worked on a program together, and represented by their General Secretary, Reverend Canon Chris Kinanjui. We have Wule Nsao, who chairs the election observation group, and the TDA, Technical Working Group on Elections. We have Lee, who is representing the Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights. We thank you for being here and for supporting us with giving us a lot of technical support through the process. We thank the media. We really want to thank you, the media. You've walked with us this journey. You've covered all our statements, submissions. You've always been with us. We really appreciate and thank you, the media. And I would also like to thank all other stakeholders here present. I may not have listed you, named you, but we appreciate you. We have and continue to work very closely on elections and human rights issues, and we hope to continue to walk these journeys together. We do appreciate you. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we all know that Kenyan elections are one of the most critical events in the Kenyan political and civic calendar. Held every 5 years, it offers Kenyans the opportunity to engage in the democratic process by electing their leaders. Today, exactly 3 weeks after the Supreme Court of Kenya rendered its judgment on the presidential election petitions, we, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, have the pleasure to launch and share the findings of our final 2022 election monitoring and observation report, which we have named Demystifying Our Democracy. We are happy to share this report with you. The Commission has been monitoring the 2022 election cycle for slightly over 8 months, because we began in December of last year. And the main aim of monitoring was to promote and protect human rights before, during, and after the elections. The Commission released its earlier findings on the political parties' nominations about 35 days to the elections. And in that, we were reflecting on the state of human rights. And today, we give you our final reports. Looking at the two reports and on the whole, we find that Kenya has made enormous strides as a country in election matters. In some areas, it has improved. In some areas, it is still lagging. But sad to say, in some areas, we retrogressed. While making this conclusion, we however find that the elections held in 2022 were comparatively, in relation to past elections, more efficient and transparent, and with fewer human rights violations. So we found these elections to have been more efficient, more transparent, and having fewer human rights violations. We will be setting this out to you later as we look at the key findings. On the positive strides that we noticed, remember I say that on some areas we improved, on some we're lagging, and on some we retrogressed. So on the positive strides, the Commission acknowledges and applauds the IEBC for putting in place systems that ensured a more robust counting, tallying, transmission, and announcement of result process. We particularly applaud the making of the elections results portal public, despite the difficulties, anxiety, and suspicion caused by the disparate pace of capturing the returns by the various media houses. We also wish to applaud the security agencies, as has been highlighted here before, for carrying out their work in a manner that adequately facilitated the right to vote and be voted for. The security agencies were very responsive and managed to contain several incidences of violence. They were quite professional and humane in their conduct and response. Their restraint in use of force is highly commended. We thank you, Mr. Bruno, and your team. Please pass our commendations to the Inspector General. We also wish to applaud IPOA in the same time, because it is the systems that IPOA has put in place that has made the force realize that they are being watched and they have to observe human rights tenets in their operations. So we thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. At this point, I would like to just take a minute and remember that the security agencies who work for us also suffer. I'd like to recall our officers who were killed in Tiati yesterday. This in the line of duty, and very, very sad and unfortunate. We want to send our condolences to the families of the officers who have died in the line of duty, and we want to remind Kenyans that officers are human beings too, and they also have human rights. And we will work as a commission to ensure that their human rights are respected. As they serve you, let us honor and respect them as human beings. They are our brothers and sisters too. So we mourn with them, and we send our condolences to the force and to the families. In relation to special interest groups, the Commission lauds the voters for electing an increased number of women, youth, and persons with disabilities. There is, however, still need for improvement in the voting facilities for persons with disabilities and older persons, and we shall be elaborating on this as we go forward. This report highlights an increase in the number of independent candidates elected. This could mean one of two things. It is either a positive trend indicating that our country is now enhancing their democratic space and allowing for diversity of political opinions and convictions where people are voted for on their personal desirability, or it could be an indication that the internal political party mechanisms, especially the nominations and dispute resolution systems, are disenfranchising a large number of aspirants who have no recourse but to vie as independent candidates. The jury is out on that. Probably Mule's report will tell us more about that. The report records a substantial drop in the number of lives lost compared to 2017. We've all had it from NCIC, the way there was a better, peaceful environment. We've had it from IPOA, we've had it from the NPS. We had a much, much more peaceful election. Despite the drop in loss of lives, other violations such as assault, intimidation, harassment, voter bribery, and misuse of children in elections are still a grave concern. One particular disturbing observation is the increase in civilian misuse of firearms, which contributed to at least 70% of the deaths and assaults recorded. A new phenomenon not previously observed was the violence inside tallying centers, which majorly affected election officials. We'll be speaking to that later as well. Another positive note in the report is the level of tolerance and restraint exhibited by members of the public throughout the election process, and especially at the very sensitive time of the announcement of the presidential results. Compared to 2017, there was a substantial drop in civilian unrest and violence as a result of the electoral process and presidential results. This in spite of the highly polarized campaign environment. And at this point, we applaud the NCIC for promoting peace and engaging in very active peace messaging. Very much. You mentioned the need for an MOU. We are open to that, Commissioner. We shall be engaging. Thank you very much. We will. And areas that still need reform and or attention include voter education, voter apathy turnout, how do we improve that? Voter registration, need to ease the transfer of vote. A lot of people do not vote because their votes are stuck in regions that they have since moved out of, so the need to ease the process of transferring the vote needs reform. Training of polling station officials, political party formations and nominations, those are areas we need to engage. Enforcement of election offenses, provisions, largely unenforced to date. Building trust and confidence in the election process, and timelines for conclusion of cases and enacting legislation affecting the election processes. Approximately over 8 million registered voters, about 1/3 of the voters registered, did not participate in the polling process. This is a worrying trend that needs to be probed further for the sustenance of our democracy. The Commission takes cognizance that the voter registration exercise was well conducted by the IEBC to increase the number of voters. This positively increased from 19 million voters in 2017 to over 22 million voters in 2022, an increase of slightly over 1 million voters. When it comes to the judiciary, the court's jurisprudence quite evolved in the 2022 election cycle, as attested in our report. Albeit some court decisions were being given very late in the day, and this affected and had an impact on the planning and logistics of the elections by the IEBC. The Commission, however, notes with concern retrogression on the 2/3 gender principle through a High Court judgment that suspended a decision by the IEBC to compel political parties to comply with the 2/3 gender principle in their nomination of candidates. It is this order that probably explains the number of complaints we are hearing from across the county assemblies over the list of those declared nominated. So this is an area where we have noted retrogression. We take comfort in the words of the President at his inauguration, where he said he looks forward to ensuring that the 2/3 gender principle is legislated within the first 2 years of his term. We are watching and we shall work onto that so that this sees the light of day. So at this point, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to share the key findings of the Commission in its report. The first area we deal with is the right to life, and our report documents 7 cases of loss of life. This is a huge reduction from the 99 cases that were reported in 2017. The 7 cases, yes, you can see the graph there. We have just the blue for this year, the red was 2017. So we have a big drop in the number of lives lost. And this testifies to the good work done by the security agencies and also the good work done in peace promotion. In that, we thank the religious leaders, the NCCK, and the NCIC for peace messaging constantly. The 7 cases captured in 2022 include 3 deaths which occurred during the campaign period and 4 which occurred during and after the polls. The cases were from 6 counties, namely Kisii, West Pokot, Trans Nzoia, Kisumu, Bungoma, and Nairobi. Out of the 7 documented, 2 were allegedly perpetrated by civilians, 3 were the result of road accidents during political campaigns, and 2 were by unknown assailants. The second area is insecurity. Now, the Commission noted a rise in cases of insecurity in various parts of the county, particularly in Lamu, Garissa, Marsabit, Baringo, Elgeyo Marakwet, Mandera, Nakuru, Turkana, and West Pokot counties. While the government took measures to enhance security in those areas, the Commission notes that insecurity impedes citizens' democratic rights, and the right to vote and be voted for is affected. Further, the rights to association, assembly, movement, and expression are also impacted negatively, and as a result, the Commission noted a reduction in campaign activities in those areas and an increase in criminal cases. This is a victim of insecurity. The criminal cases were on the rise, mostly in areas where we had curfews. And you could see that in the picture before that. What did we have? I think, yeah, that's a bullet. A campaign vehicle was shot at. You can see the bullet shot in the middle. And this was in Mandera, one of the areas that also had curfew imposed on them. The third issue we look at is threats, harassment, and intimidation. The Commission monitored inflammatory speeches in political gatherings and the media and documented 49 cases of threats, harassment, and intimidation. Such utterances disenfranchise people of their constitutionally guaranteed rights by creating fear amongst voters and threatening peace and stability. I think we'll later on in the slides be able to show you some of those utterances that were captured from the North Rift. Okay, yeah, there is an instance where this was picked from social media, and a group was there sending messages that were not very kind to the other side of the divide. There's the next one where somebody was charged in Uasin Gishu County, and they were charged because the words they uttered, in the next slide, yeah, those are the words they uttered and which caused them to be charged. So these were seen as intimidation, harassment, and threats, and there were many other instances of the same. Now, presence and conduct of security officers. The Commission noted adequate presence of security officers across the country during campaign events and at polling and tallying centers. Security personnel responded to incidents swiftly and in a timely fashion, de-escalating violence and restoring peace where there was unrest. The Commission lauds the Inspector General and his gallant officers drawn from across the country and across various security agencies for the meticulous deployment and for exercising restraint in the use of force during the management of crowds. This may be attributed to the timely training of security officers on public order management, and we commend you, sir, for leading that, and the responsible use of force and firearms during crowd control. We thank you. The other area we looked at was disruption of legal or political activities. And during the campaigns, the Commission documented 51 cases of disruption of legally organized gatherings. On the presence of officers, we captured them in political gatherings, just being present, observing what was going on and making sure things went well. There they were again, ensuring peace. This is still the presence. You can see the number of police officers. This was in Jacaranda, Nairobi, a place that was very tense, but was managed very, very well. We had disruption of political activities, again a picture from Jacaranda, where citizens from opposing political divides actually met at the grounds, and it was very, very chaotic. So that was captured. We actually recorded 51 cases of disruption of political gatherings. The other area is the inducement and undue influence of voters. Now, elections are the litmus test for a true democratic political system. Democracy is affected if the will of the people is either bought or manipulated through inducements. The Elections Offences Act prohibits any form of inducement of voters to either attend, participate, or refrain in any political activity. During the monitoring exercise, the Commission documented 193 cases of inducements and undue influence of voters. 182 cases were attributed to the campaign period, while 11 were observed on polling day. Some of the forms of inducement observed include the distribution of branded food and money during the campaign, and distribution of money as well during the campaign period. The inducement mainly took the form of basic commodities, including flour and water. And we captured some of these incidences. This is in Mombasa. You can see flour is being distributed very, very openly, and there's no hiding the fact that this is being done. We have similar incidences, again, still in Mombasa. This is an aspirant who set up a free water point and was distributing water to the people, and very, very openly too. In Kiambu, this one we had flour also being distributed. You remember the elections came at a period when unga was a problem. And therefore using unga at that time was a good way to capture people's interest and their votes. So we captured so many incidences of that, over 190 incidences of voter bribery. Interestingly, one of our commissioners was also approached with a bribe when she said she was going to vote in Mombasa. And so we actually witnessed the bribery to large extent, even to personal, to ourselves, yes. So there were the offers to bribe, and they were not even hiding it. That's the sad bit about this bribery issue, is that the politicians were very brazen. They would come out and they wouldn't hide it. And some would just talk of the way I carried a lot of money, I was given money to come and distribute. And this is very, very concerning in terms of getting people to vote out of their free will. The other area we looked at is misuse of public resources. And misuse of public resources to advance the political interest of a particular group or individual to the inclusion of others is a breach of public duty. The Elections Offences Act bars the use of public resources in public political activities as it accords one party an unfair advantage. Whereas it is a political right for public servants to associate themselves with the ideals of a political group, the law prohibits the utilization of state-allocated resources to advance personal political interests. The Commission documented 44 cases of misuse of public resources in political activities at both the national and county levels, giving some candidates an unfair advantage over others. We recorded quite a number, and this is some of them. This is Ugunja in Siaya County, where an office built using CDF funds is used as a campaign promotion tool. We saw a similar incident in Murang'a County, where a police station was also built using CDF funds and launched at the election time just to promote a candidate. The other area we looked at was access to polling centers by observers. and this was very concerning. The presence of observers at polling stations plays a crucial role in assuring voters, candidates, party agents, government, and the public of the credibility of the election process. It increases public confidence in the process and offers an accountability tool for IEBC officials and other stakeholders. Despite the accreditation by IEBC, the Commission recorded instances where observers were denied access to either the polling stations or tallying centers. And we tried to just highlight a few of them there for you. At Kilimani, observers were not allowed in until 10 to 6, which means they were not able to observe the opening and setup of the polling station. We also have a situation in Igembe where the gates were closed and the guard was instructed by the returning officer not to allow anyone inside, including accredited observers. These are very, very sad scenarios, and we hope the IEBC will be able to address them going forward. Next slide. Okay. The next element we look at is opening and closing of polling stations. The Commission noted some administrative challenges in the deployment of polling materials, which affected the opening of some polling stations. To this end, the Commission documented 53 cases of late opening of polling stations. 11 were due to the failure of the KIMS kits. 42 was a result of delayed delivery of polling materials. Consequently, this led to the late closure of these stations, but the time in all of them was extended to compensate the late opening. We saw in Mombasa, in Muvita, the polling was opened at 9 because materials did not arrive in time. And Kilifi, the polling was opened at 7:13. The ballots again, the materials were delayed. So these are instances where we captured, but in total we captured 53 cases of late opening and closing of polling stations. The next element we look at is the performance of the KIMS kits. Excuse me. The performance of the KIMS kits, this was a highly contentious issue in the last election, with a lot of discourse going up and down between the political parties and the IEBC on whether to use manuals, whether they will revert to the manual registers or whether we will only use the KIMS kit to identify voters. This matter went up and down, and finally, in the last minute, orders and directives allowing IEBC to resort to manual identification where there were challenges with the kits were issued by the courts. This then allowed IEBC to use the manual registers, and I think it was a godsend for them, this court judgment, because indeed the KIMS kits did fail and manual registers were applied. The Commission notes the disparate approaches in use of the manual registers. There was no singular approach to how the manual registers were reverted to, and this was a concern as different polling stations, different polling officers use different methods to permit the use of manual registers. There were places where people were being asked to take pictures with their IDs. There were places where people were just writing their names into a book, and there were all sorts of different ways in applying that manual register. More details are covered in our report. Instances of failure were recorded, as shown on the slide there, and I can't tell the venues where that came from, but yes, we indeed recorded instances of failures of the KIMS kit. The next element we look at is safety of polling materials and officials. The Commission noted with great concern the rising trend of blatant disruption of the election process and the incidences of violence against IEBC officials at the constituency and national tallying centers. The law allows for aspirants through their agents to observe the counting and tallying process. It is paramount that this right does not infringe on the work of election officials. The Commission documented 33 cases of violence targeting call centers and officials in various parts of the country. These cases include altercations between opposing political factions, misuse of firearms by civilians as documented in Bungoma, Busia, and Siaya, physical violence and the destruction of election materials as witnessed in Mombasa and Kakamega. These confrontations resulted in physical injury to civilians, security personnel, and IEBC officials in Kakamega, Mombasa, Nairobi, and Wajir. In Wajir, an election official had his leg amputated. Cases have also been reported of deaths and abduction of election officials. The Commission has consistently spoken out against and continues to decry the violence, intimidation, harassment, threats, and intimidation of election officials. Such conduct impacts the integrity of the process and must be stopped. We call on the relevant agencies to investigate the incidences and ensure those accountable are brought to book. Conduct, and in the picture there, this is from a polling station in Kakamega. People came in during the counting process, threw away the ballots. You can see the ballots on the floor on the last picture. And you can imagine when the votes are on the floor, how do we count them? How do we verify them? These are instances that we must really not permit, and it's a violation of the rights of those officials and of the election process. Conduct of IEBC officials. During the election monitoring period, the Commission documented 28 incidences of election malpractices by IEBC officials. These incidents range from issuing more than one ballot paper, collusion with politicians during the voting. Incidents were also reported of non-election officials being found in unlawful possession of election materials. Incidents were reported in Kajiado and Nairobi. A presiding officer, if you look at the screen, talks of a presiding officer arrested in Narok, North Constituency, for changing details of the final results in the form, and that was brought out. Polling clerks were produced in court. One of them was seen plucking 4 ballot papers for MCA post, and another marked them. This is very, very strange. I hope IEBC, you look at your officials and are able to account for this kind of conduct, even though they're also facing criminal trials. In West Pokot, again, there was an incident where one officer was arrested and detained for allegedly altering presidential results from one ward. So there are several instances captured in our report that you will be able to read when you look at it. Then there's the issue of affixing results at the polling station. The law requires that the presiding officer affix a copy of the declaration of the results duly signed at the public entrance to the polling station or at any place convenient and accessible to the public at the polling station. This provision is not only mandatory, but it also places a premium on the public's ability to access all the results announced by the presiding officer within their respective stations. The affixing of the results form at the polling station facilitates the verification and increases transparency. In a departure from what was done in 2017, 45 polling stations monitored in 2022 failed to affix the results at the polling stations. We do not have the list, but we have a full list annexed to the report, and you'll be able to see exactly which polling stations failed to comply. On the right to property, during the election monitoring period, the Commission documented 22 incidences of unlawful destruction of property. These incidents were witnessed in Nairobi, Murang'a, Trans Nzoia, Siaya, and Isiolo. And if you look there, you can see that car has the window smashed, and I think the windscreen is also bashed. This was in Muranga. And the next one, this is deliberate destruction of somebody's campaign material, Wakungu from Kiminini in Trans Nzoia County. So we have many other incidences captured in our report. Then we have freedom of expression. Freedom of expression is indeed a cornerstone of human rights and a pillar of free and democratic societies, as it supports other fundamental rights such as the right to information and to participate in public affairs. During the 2022 election period, the Commission noted abuse of freedom of expression, mainly on online platforms, including social media platforms, mainstream media, blogs, and other channels, through pseudo accounts and persons hired to propagate hate speech and/or propaganda. The intention was to disinform and misinform the public to the disadvantage of the rival political camps. The deliberate misinformation caused anxiety and fueled animosity, intolerance, and polarization amongst the citizenry. The report captures two incidences, one in Kericho, and also captures two incidences, one in Kericho and one in Kakamega, where members of the Fourth Estate were either attacked or impeded in accessing polling stations. And we spoke out against all that at the initial statements. Do we have anything on the right to? Okay. And then the other element we look at is misuse of children. We know that we have a law, the Children Act, which provides for child rights and highlights that the best interest of a child is the paramount principle when dealing with a child. Children are neither voters nor are they candidates, and their role in an election is neither here nor there, and is very undesirable and also a violation of their rights. The Commission documented 163 incidents of children's involvement and attendance in political activities, meetings, and campaigns. This is regrettable, noting that these children ought to be in school or engage in learning activities and not exposed to the potential risk for ills of political violence, foul language, and uncouth practices. Parents should shield their children from such exposure. And we have some there showing, I think we have that, the next slide. And the next slide. They are actively being used in the campaigns. And they were also being given money and some inducement in these forums. When they pose like that, wote wanaenda nyumbani na 50 bob or something. So that's very, very unfortunate. Access to polling stations by special interest groups. The Commission documented cases of polling stations that were not accessible to persons with disabilities and older persons. For instance, in Gatina Ward in Nairobi County, several polling stations were on the first floor of a building with no lifts or ramps. Similarly, Muhuri, Mushiri Polling Center in Kasarani, and Ziwa Langombe Primary School in Mombasa were equally inaccessible to persons with disabilities. The Commission also notes that there were no voting materials to cater for persons with visual impairment or hearing impairment, and there were no lowered booths to enable people on wheelchairs to be able to vote comfortably. There is room for improvement on rights of persons who are abled differently. So you've seen that, those are buildings where you can see the voters are on the first floor, and there's no space even for a ramp or to lift someone in a wheelchair. There's the picture where there's the lady trying to come downstairs. You can see the lady at the back. She's got a crutch. So she definitely has a broken leg, and she's struggling to come down the stairs. And you can see not much support from the watching public. This shows how we are as a nation and a people. Yeah, but those are concerns. You can see in that school as well, the voters are on the first floor up there. And this is very sad. Rights of intersex persons and their participation in the 2022 elections. I want to ask at this point, who knows who is an intersex person? Anybody who knows intersex? Yes. Okay. She says that intersex is a person born with both features. Dennis, who is an intersex? Nimerudi shule ya kubaru kidogo.
So, an intersex person or child is a child conceived and born with a mixture of, Thank you, Dominic. So, an intersex child is a child conceived, born outside the normal binary classification of male or female. It's a biological condition by birth, of course. It's natural. It's nobody's wish. It's no parents' wish. And this is caused because of some kind of malformation or ambiguity in terms of the genitalia. You go to a hospital as a mother, the first thing you want to know is it a boy or a girl? And a midwife or a doctor looks at you with amazement, confusion. It's not a boy or a girl. Why? Because of the physical, genital ambiguities. You can neither see a penis or a vagina. You cannot really tell. A testicle, whatever it is. Then it also comes in terms of chromosomes. There's X and Y. XY for male child, XX for female child, normally as it's called. In this case, a child is born either with XXY or YYX, and that causes ambiguity. In terms of hormones, for ladies, you know, you have estrogen, which is dominant, and then testosterone for male. In such a child, you find that there's a kind of confusion, the natural malformation. So you find probably there's more of estrogen for a so-called girl and testosterone for men. In terms of gonads, we know that girls, or the so-called normal, I don't know what normal means, ovaries for ladies, and then testicle for men. In this case, you'll find an ovotesticle, a child born with both an ovary and a testicle. These, most of the time, are, undescended from within. At times, they don't have uterus for girls. So, there are a lot of things that are supposed to happen in terms of medical intervention or corrective surgeries, which, of course, the genetician professor will tell us so much, but that's for another class. So, I think the point here, what you're saying is, each one of you, if you take a journey along your memory lane, as you're growing up, as you went to school, probably you had a colleague in school, a child, a friend, who you are not so sure, is this a boy or this a girl? Because of the the characteristics that are prohibited. They are within us. The last year, during the last census, we had, actually the government recognized intersex persons. And we had 1,524. Those ones who came out and were counted were recognized. And for information, I'm one of the commissioners, and I'm the first intersex person to hold this kind of a position. And so we appreciate it. our government. And so, Chair, go ahead and tell us what's happening with intersex in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to be sure you do not confuse the intersex with the transgender. This is a natural condition that is born, someone is born to. It's not a choice that someone makes. So the rights of intersex persons and their participation in the 2022 election. The Commission takes cognizance of the progress made by the government towards the recognition and protection of intersex persons and their involvement in all spheres of life like all other human beings. During the just concluded elections, the Commission recorded 2 cases of intersex persons who vied for the position of member of county assembly. One was in Nairobi and the other was in Kisumu. It was a challenge getting these people cleared and on the ballot because, as explained by the Commissioner, sometimes they don't look female, they don't look male, their documents are confusing, and they're challenged when they produce their identification documents. The Commission acknowledges the IBC for supporting intersex candidates and helping them to get the relevant clearance certificates without questioning their gender. The Commission also, through the Intersex Persons Implementation and Coordination Committee, supported the 2 and facilitated their timely clearance by IBC. We wish them well on their political journey. Lastly, before I finish, I'd like to echo the concerns of Mule Sao on the future of the IBC as a commission. This is a space we have to watch very, very keenly. We know the term of 3 commissioners is coming to an end in January of next year, and we know the other 4, there are already petitions filed for their removal. So we are likely to have a gap in the IBC. At one point, we were happy that there was going to be a rolling commission with some retiring, some staying, but we're now looking and staring at a space where we might be without commissioners. The past trend has been to hold on to the nomination or appointment of commissioners for long periods of time. It behoves each and every stakeholder here to work towards ensuring that the independence of the commission is maintained by ensuring proper, timely recruitment of commissioners into that commission so that we don't experience any gaps or lapses in terms of having that commission operating independently and ensuring that steps towards preparing for the next general election, reforms noted in our recommendations are taken up in time. So this is a space we ask all of you to hold hands and work on as we move forward in this electioneering issues. Again, I would like to echo the words of the Vice Chair of the CAJ, who called for the gathering of duty bearers to see to the implementation of the recommendations. I want to tie this with what Elon said about a compendium. If we have a compendium, then having those duty bearers together to work towards ensuring implementation will be a strong way forward in these issues. And we take both issues on board, and we thank you. So at this point, I would like to conclude by stating that the report that we have provided, as stated earlier by Director Han, provides strong recommendations to duty bearers, which, if acted upon, will usher in a new dawn, ensuring elections next time are held against a strong backdrop of rule of law, respect for human rights, progressive reforms, and a peaceful environment. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the report of the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights. I thank you all. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson, and thank you very much, the whole lot of you, for your patience. I know there is one bit that was not presented, and basically those are the recommendations. But now we are going to the next stage where we will do the official launch of our monitoring report. And in that report, you'll be able to give the strong recommendations that we have made to various stakeholders and duty bearers. So at this moment, we'll just go to the next session where we will do the official launch. It will be a short one. I know the media practitioners here would like to go and file their stories, so we'll make it short and nice. So I wish to call upon the chairperson of Kenya National Commission on Human Rights to be joined by the commissioners and also the speakers who made their remarks. I would request you to come over at the podium so that we can go along with it. For the media, your reports will be given out by Linesta, my colleague who is here. They are actually at the back there. So may I request the media team if we can pick up your microphones, because we'll need to keep these table down here, please, if you may. Thank you very much. So Chairperson and Commissioners, CEO, the visitors, our friends who made the remarks, kindly, if you may join.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's our honor and pleasure to launch the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights 2022 election report, Demystifying Our Economy.
So we shall be presenting copies of the report to the stakeholders and the duty bearers that are presented here. For the media teams, we have enough copies for you that will be issued by Linesta. So Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners from Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, if you may, just raise up, lift up copies of the report so that we can have the photo session. Thank you very much. Asante sana. Thank you. So we'll have the chairperson and the commissioners from Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, Dr. Amalo. Please, if you will join for that photo session. Those are members of the commission, led by the chairperson. We have one commissioner who is representing the commission elsewhere. So they are normally 5 in number. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. At this point in time, we wish to have a plenary. If there is any person who would like to make a comment, and it's at this point I wish to invite the members of the fourth estate, if there are specific questions that you would like to direct either to the chairperson of Kenya National Commission on Human Rights or any other speaker, then this is the moment. I can see a hand. May I request the chairperson to ready herself just in case the questions are directed to her and any other speaker that spoke to us. Thank you. If you tell us your name and the organization you represent.
Thank you very much. My name is Joshua Mutoa Waema. I represent Social Conscious Initiative and I'm former candidate for Ngara Ward MCA. My concern goes directly to the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. More than often, we launch these reports in big hotels. And I believe the people who are here are very few in terms of understanding the contents of the report. My humble request is that, if it is very possible, would you mind devolving this report to the county, to the county level, even to the grassroots, so that the other people may know what are the contents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Any other question? Here we go. You tell us your name and the organization you represent. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Colin Sobajo. I represent the Consortium for Disabled Persons Organizations in Kenya. I'd like to commend KNCHR for the report, and it has actually highlighted the plight of persons with disability there, concluded elections. Well, additionally, I'd like to state that this time round there were numbers, higher numbers of persons with disability who registered to vote. IEBC stated that there were 18.94% persons with disability who were under the register of voters. Additionally, political parties showed interest in inclusion of persons with disability through the disability leagues. We saw numbers of persons with disability being accommodated with the various political parties. However, the biggest challenge was in the just concluded nominations in the county assemblies. We saw 22 counties not complying with constitutional directive that persons with disability be nominated in the various county assemblies. We've not seen this in the report, and again, I'd like to question, is this a deliberate effort by IEBC not to verify the names listed for nomination in the disability slots by the national, to verify with the National Council for Persons with Disability, or are there other measures that these people who masquerade as persons with disability can again be maybe forwarded for legislation? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a question directed to IEBC. Any other person who would like to raise a concern, a compliment? It seems like we have done so well. We only have 2 one for Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, and then the other one for IEBC. Madam Chair, if you may start.
Thank you very much for those two issues. If I may start with the issue of devolving the report, I assure you we will be taking this down to Mashinani through our branches and through HRDs that we work with. So it doesn't stop here. This is the launch. We shall now do dissemination and sharing of the findings of our report. We shall also be engaging duty bearers. So this doesn't end here, this starts here. On the issue of PWDs, you mentioned it's not covered in our report. We actually have mentioned that the decision of the court that actually took away the two-third gender issue was a retrogression of gender rights. And we went ahead to mention that it must then have impacted the nomination list and therefore the nominations to the county assemblies. As a commission, we are engaging the IEBC to give us a clear direction on what happened in those 22 counties, and our litigation team is on standby to take up this matter in court. So we are concerned and we are going to ensure that the issue of PWDs are followed up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. IEBC, a follow-up on PWDs.
Thank you for that question. I think on the question of the inclusion of this disability in the nomination list, we rely entirely on the list given by the political parties. And they actually indicate the people with disability. And we assume those are the correct people. I think it is an area of improvement on our part, where we should be checking with the body concerned with the BWDs. Otherwise, we relied on the list from the political parties. And they clearly indicate these are people with disabilities. So I'm even quote the certificate number for the people with disability. And again, we cassetted the list on 23rd July in 2 days of white circulation. So that should have raised a concern for those people who knew those are not actually people with disabilities to raise even with us. So we assume it is the correct list since there were no petitions from the concerned parties. Thank you.
Thank you very much, KNCHR Keitani. If you may progress that discussion with the Deputy CEO of IEBC, after this I think it will go a long way to allay any worries and fears. At this juncture, I think we are now almost headed to the finale of this session, and I would like to invite our Vice Chairperson to give the closing remarks and vote of thanks. Commissioner.
Thank you, Kabiru. Our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My task is very simple. I want to take this opportunity on behalf of Kenya National Commission on Human Rights to express our gratitude to all of you, and especially our partners for working with us in our journey during the 2022 elections. And first of all, let me start by thanking all the speakers for the day who have given us insights on the necessary steps towards a human rights-centered election process. Your wise counsel and remarks have enriched our report. Our special recognition and appreciation to our development partners who, through their support, were able to help us to execute our 2022 election monitoring strategy. And to be very specific, to the Embassy of Norway under the increased 2022 elections and the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights together with the Commission on Administrative Justice. Without forgetting IBC, thank you. Without forgetting the IBC, the International Association of Women Judges, the Witness Protection Agency, and others. This whole of government approach has enabled us to achieve our mandate, and it's our appeal that we continue building strong partnership as we serve our country. We also wish to recognize our valuable partners, our partnership with our vibrant civil society organizations working on democracy and good governance, to ELOC and all the affiliated institutions, Katiba Institute, LGR, Wangu Kanja Foundation, FIDA, Kenya, Defenders Coalition, CMD, NDI, IRE, as well as the members of the Fourth Estate, the Media Council of Kenya, the Editors Guild, tunasema asanteni sana. Our special recognition to all our staff in the commission, the field monitors who are distributed in all the counties, and I'm happy to report that 10 of them are here. Can I request them to stand up? The 10 field monitors. Yes, they did some good job and we want to appreciate their effort. We also recognize the good work that was done by our election monitoring hub. They never slept, they worked tirelessly, and that's why we are able to have such a report. Thank you so much, our staff, for the good work that you did. And in our conclusion, I want to take this opportunity to appreciate all our invited guests. Thank you for honoring our invite. We look forward to continually working with you so that we can have a better Kenya that is free from any form of human rights violation. We thank you, and I want to wish you God's blessings. May God bless you. May God bless our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair, for the vote of thanks. We have come to the end of the official launch, but before that, okay, fine, we will sing that in a short while. I take this opportunity to thank the whole lot of you. We won't tire to say asanteni sana for being patient all that time since morning. Tunawashukuru sana. I see the media team have already left, some of them, because they need to file the story because it is a big story, I must admit. So asanteni sana. In the meantime, I really wish to request you to be upstanding so that we conclude with that beautiful prayer that we always recite. So, Dan, if you may. Thank you very much. Go in peace. For the media teams, if you need to make any follow-up interviews, kindly feel free to reach out to me, just in case you would like to have a special interview with a chairperson or any other person who made a remark.